Rachel looked glum at the moment. She then said to Hajin that she had a grudge against him. Lancaster smiled slightly at that. He then asked her, "Do you really think I'd do this just because of my hatred towards you?" Rachel was then shocked to hear that. She then shockingly asked him that, with a condescending look directed at her. Lancaster continued, "You're too confident, honestly, you're not even my target of revenge. The targets of my vengeance are those who threw away, insulted, framed, and even exiled those who offered their lives to them, none other than the imperial family itself. You're nothing but one of the means by which I could take my revenge, but, you're someone who has more pride as a knight than anyone else." Rachel tightened the grip on her rapier hearing that. She then asked him, "Do you really have to do this?" Hearing that, Lancaster then asked her back, "Don't you know it as well, what I did for a certain someone, and how it ended up for me?" Rachel could only be silent hearing that. She then recalled the tragic incident at that time which was still clearly imprinted in her head. While taking something out, Lancaster said that today he came just to talk, so he told them not to worry too much. He then threw something at them and said that it was a farewell gift from him. That something turned out to be the body of a man who was already covered in blood. They both then felt shocked and horrified to see it. Seeing their shock, Lancaster then explained, "That person is one of the agents that have been protecting you like your shadow." He said that he was always watching her. He told her to remember that carefully. Lancaster then left there right after saying that. Seeing Lancaster who suddenly disappeared, Hajin wondered, did he leave? He was a little doubtful because Lancaster disappeared so suddenly. He knew Lancaster would be approaching Rachel soon. But he was just supposed to send a few assassins and then retreat after they're defeated by Rachel's awakening. He wasn't expecting him to kill someone like this. After thinking for a while, Hajin then planned to report this incident to Cube, but he wasn't too optimistic about it. He realized, the upper management of Cube are already rotten to the core and are working with the jinns. They'll probably bury this incident somehow as well. After returning to her dormitory, Rachel then reported all the events to an old man. Hearing her report, the old man said that he understood. Hearing that, Rachel then told her suspicions. She was sure that Lancaster would not just leave her like that. There was something wrong here. Before, he even sent an assassin to try to hurt her. Hearing that, the old man then asked her, "Could you once again explain what happened, in more detail?" Rachel recalled for a moment and then replied, "Back then, I was training with a friend at the park." She then showed the bracelet that Hajin gave her and said, "My friend gave me this bracelet before we began training." The old man was then confused to see that. Rachel explained, he said that this bracelet could help her training. The old man was silent for a moment to hear that. After thinking for a while, he then said that he thought Lancaster might have misunderstood her relationship with that friend. Rachel was then surprised to hear that. The old man explained, Lancaster lost someone important to him in the London incident. Maybe he wants you to experience the very same pain that he had experienced. Rachel was then shocked to hear that. She then anxiously and confusedly asked, why? Rachel could only feel gloomy at the moment. She wondered, would he have such a ridiculous misunderstanding? If his guess is right, then Lancaster is way too mistaken, because I'm not in a position to have feelings for anyone right now. Rachel then looked at the bracelet given by Hajin with a look full of worry. She then recalled Lancaster's words at that time. At that time, Lancaster said to Hajin, "The affection you show to Rachel will one day transform into a blade that turns on you." Back then, she wasn't able to see what expression Hajin made. She wondered, what expression did he have? Will he hate me? Rachel's hands trembled when she came to that thought. Realizing her strangeness, the old man then asked her, "Are you okay?" Rachel was silent for a moment. She then answered yes. After she thought about it some more, Rachel felt that this might be good. If Hajin is disappointed in her, then he'll naturally distance himself from her. That would be better for everyone. The old man cleared his throat for a moment. He then changed the subject. Putting that aside, you seem to have changed a lot. Rachel was then confused to hear that. The old man explained, "You've always liked running around recklessly. When did you become so calm and gentle?" Rachel was embarrassed to hear that. She then immediately said that it was when she was a child. The old man continued, "Back then, you were just a child who would go and play right after finishing your homework." After reminiscing for a while, the old man then got back to business. He said that they would have a meeting to discuss whether they would choose an agent to protect her in the future or hire a professional mercenary. He would inform her of the decision later. After the meeting was over, Rachel said that she understood. She then remembered something and asked him, Did the agent who died in the line of duty today have a family? The old man replied. No, he didn't. Rachel understood. Even so, she then asked the old man to give him the best treatment possible. She said that she would attend his funeral later. After her conversation with the old man ended, Rachel then limply lay down on her bed. She was feeling down at the moment because again someone died because of her. She wondered, how many more times must this situation repeat itself? Rachel thought that she had to get stronger as soon as possible, and when she looked at the bracelet on her wrist, she suddenly remembered the figure of Hajin. When he gave the bracelet to her, Hajin at that time said that it was just a normal bracelet, so he told her not to worry about it. Rachel smiled slightly when she remembered that. She then closed her eyes, and sank into that comfortable feeling. Rachel continued to touch the bracelet that Hajin gave her as if it was a very important item to her. Meanwhile elsewhere, as the full moon shone in the city sky, Lancaster was standing on top of a building at this time, watching the dormitory where she lived secretly. He flashed back for a moment and silently said to Rachel, affection isn't something you can avoid just because you don't wish to give it to anyone. Time passed. It has been some time since Hajin's meeting with Lancaster. They are now getting closer to the turning point of the main story. He as well as some of the main characters are gathering somewhere at the moment. Seeing him finally come, Soho then greeted him. Jong then walked up to him. He was very upset and angry with him for how dare he came late. Hajin then apologized to him for that. He was really helpless with his attitude, even though he was only 2 minutes late. Other than him, the rest of the field trip participants were as per the novel. Their destination is Wind Mountain, which is located on the outskirts of Seoul and 800 meters above sea level. When Hajin sat down in her seat, Soho then offered him some jelly, but Hajin politely declined, while Nayeon herself immediately ran towards him when she heard that and said that she wanted some. In outline, the main story this time roughly went like this: everyone, including Kim Soho, would be caught by the wraith of the past on Wind Mountain, and that wraith would send everyone back to the 1970s when the outcall occurred. Technically, it was a magic dimension that reenacted a part of history. Nayeon then curiously asked, "What are we going to do there?" Jong-hak enthusiastically explained, "There's tons to do. My family owns the Wind Mountains. 50 years ago, a magic explosion took place on it, so the mana density there is super high. We'll meditate on top of the mountain and do some sparring." Hearing that, Nayeon seemed to be looking forward to it. It sounded fun to her. Hajin also smiled slightly. He didn't know if it would be fun, but surely it would be eventful, although everyone had a tough time in the novel. But Hajin thought that this time it would probably be fine because he was here. He also narcissistically thought that they should all thank him for saving them. Yona, who had been observing Hajin, suddenly felt disgusted when she saw his behavior, but Hajin had forgotten something. When they all arrived at the Wind Mountains, they then found an irregularity. They were climbing a mountain at this time, but what made them confused was why the ground there was flat. Not only that, with a worried face, Soho then called them, and asked, "Has anyone seen Hajin?" Hajin seemed to forget that no one was sure about what would happen.